of experience. I had the pleasure of working with Paul for just about 2 years. So if you would help me welcome Paul Parker.
All right. Good morning, and thank you, David. I've done all that. The highlight was working here in Clark County. I will say that, but obviously David doesn't feel the same because he scheduled me to talk about ethics and report writing on Sunday morning. Most of you are probably hungover from last night, and we'll try to get you to lunch. What I'm going to try to do is make it like, who the heck wants to talk about either one of those, right? I certainly didn't when I first started. I didn't realize the importance. But what I do believe, I honestly believe this, or else I wouldn't be here. I think that these two topics are actually some of the two most important topics that will be discussed this week. And it's not just because I'm presenting them, but I honestly believe that. And we'll walk through why I think that as we move forward. I'll try to make it somewhat engaging as far as, so you don't go to sleep. Real quickly, in reference to my background, I want to add one thing. And it's going to come into play later, which is why I want to tell you about it. I was a police officer, and that was like my dream job. That's what I wanted to do. One night I was on patrol about a year into my police career, made a traffic stop, found a reason to make a traffic stop because that's what I did as a young police officer because it was in the middle of the night and I didn't want to go to sleep and there was a traffic violation there. One thing led to another. There were 5 people in the car that I could see. There actually turned out to be 6 people in the car. I got into a foot pursuit. The gentleman that I was chasing him for really because he provided false information to me. I don't know if that's a reason to chase anybody. I mean, looking back on it, but I did. So one thing led to another, and I wound up shooting him. He got me down on my back. It was a fight. I lost everything I had. Back in the early 90s, all you had was a baton, and we didn't have pepper spray. We just had a baton, handcuffs, and a gun, and that was it. Well, luckily, I still had my right hand free, was able to get to my gun. I hit the gentleman on top of the head twice as he was choking me out as I'm lying on my back, and I recommend any police officers don't hit anybody with their Glock on the top of the head. All my rounds fell out except the one in the chamber. Right before I went unconscious, I was about to go unconscious, I got an image. A couple of days earlier, I had gone with my wife at the time. She was pregnant, and we saw the outline, the ultrasound. And right when I was about to go unconscious, I saw that ultrasound. And I thought, man, if I don't do something, I'm never going to see if that's a boy or a girl. So that's why I wound up actually finding some energy and trying to and shooting him. And then it got worse after that. He stood up, got my gun, stood over me, and was pulling the trigger, pointing it at me. And luckily, there were no rounds in the chamber. So here I am. That made me realize I don't want to do this. I want to get into death investigation because I actually thought I was going to die. It was right there. Physically, I want to see where my physical body would have gone. Not spiritually. I don't talk about that. But physically, so I started volunteering in Maricopa County at the medical examiner's office. So I tell you all that just to tell you why I'm alive, what that catalyst was, and why I got into death investigation. So after getting into death investigation for over the last 25 years or whatever it's been, I realized a couple of things. Nobody talks about ethics in death investigation. When I was a police officer, we had ethics training all day long. We had character training all day long. Nobody really talked about it in death investigation. So this morning, I'm going to talk about, just real quick, give me like 10 minutes to talk about character and the pillars of character, and I'm going to make it apply. I'm going to do my very best and hopefully try to make it apply to what you do. How many death investigators are in the room right now? Okay. How many police officers are in the room? How many funeral home people are in the room? Organ procurement folks? Social workers? Search and rescue I see over there. Anybody I'm missing? Any kind of profession? Yes, ma'am. Forensic nurse. Other than you, any other forensic nurses in the room? Did I get everybody? And CSIs, okay. So all of you, I hope can take something out of what we're going to talk about this morning. Let me see if I can make this work. All right, we just talked about that. I mean, this medical legal death investigation and forensic nurses and police officers and everybody else we've talked about, you are contacting people at their lowest point, right? There's no dispute about that. Their absolute lowest point. So they're going to give us a lot of trust. They're going to trust that that person showing up to handle their loved one's death has some kind of ethics, has some kind of integrity, and is of good moral character. There are plenty of materials, as we discussed, about ethics and law enforcement, but there's nothing really that I'm aware of, unless somebody wants to tell me right now, pertaining to death investigation specifically. In this conference right now, you're going to talk about blunt force trauma, suicide, gunshot wounds, burn deaths, you name it, but nothing about ethics or report writing, which will carry over to later. In 2009, I'm sure most of us who are in death investigation heard about the 2009 National Academy of Sciences study talking about how stuff just needs to be fixed in forensic sciences. One of the things they did recommend was there would be a national code of ethics for forensic practitioners. I don't know where we are with that, but we'll talk a little bit later. I don't know how many of you death investigation offices have a code of conduct or a code of ethic. I'm hopeful that a lot of them do now, but back when I started, and even as recently as 10 years ago, they did not. So police, though, they do have a lot of ethics training. So what I'm going to do, just give me, like I said, about 5 minutes. There's a book, it's called Character and Cops, Ethics and Policing. The only reason I want to talk about it is I got nothing else to really lay out the foundation of ethics in the first responder type of field that we talked about. So character. The author of this book, and I highly recommend it. It's very thick, though, and it's kind of dry reading, so I'm just going to give you the high points, but it is recommended, especially if you're in management. Oh, the other thing, management. I'm going to direct a lot of this I'm going to try and make it applicable to the managers in the room, to the line level folks that are in the room, to people that want to be managers that don't. I mean, I think it's applicable to all, but if every once in a while I just start going down the management road, just you let me know, like, dude, get back. So I'll do my best. First nature, there are two natures. This author says there's two natures of character. And I want you to, when I'm talking about this, I want you to get people's picture these people in your mind. You know people just like this. You know everybody I'm going to talk about, you know people like. First nature, this author believes that there's two natures. The first nature is basically that everything's about them. It's like, infantile, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And they basically, they don't really care about or know about the effect of their actions or other things on other people. It's all about them. And I'm sure that there are some people in this room, again, who know people just like that. And hopefully nobody here is just like that. There's also now the second nature, though. That's as you mature and with habituation and things along those lines, where you begin to look at how your acts impact others, what your role really is. Usually, did it go? Yeah, it did. Sorry, I'm working with something new here, so just bear with me here. It didn't go. Here we go. We all know bad habits are hard to break. If any of you in here are smokers, you probably have tried smoking several times, or stopped smoking several times. It's hard to break. All of our bad habits, cursing, whatever it is, hard to break. But character can, according to this author, be reformed in life, later in life. It can be attained by habituation in youth, just basically reinforcement from those role models that you had growing up, and hopefully you had them. Bottom part in red, I have 3 kids, one that I already told you about, her little outline there, and then I have 2 teenagers. How many teenagers do you know today who really don't have to do anything difficult? Everything is done for everything they do, they want to do. And if they don't want to do it, sometimes we as parents don't make them do it. Well, what are we doing? Right? And if you look at it, it doesn't really lead ultimately to good character. At least that's this author's contention. And I've seen it myself. So there are 4 types of bad character. And again, thanks for hanging with me here. But these, I want you to see if you see anybody that you work with or have worked with. 4 types of characters. First one, bad character. These are people that obviously they're going to manipulate people. They're going to take advantage of people. There's no way they should be in positions of public trust. I think we would all agree with that. There's a second one, is uncontrolled. These are people that they have a price. They can be bought. You can reach them somehow, some way. They obviously shouldn't be in positions of public trust as well. This is an interesting one, because the more I studied this, I thought, would I want anybody who's self-controlled? Here's self-controlled. Self-controlled people, they do the right thing, right? But they really are very angry that they're having to do it. Like, man, I'm making $20 an hour, and this guy's seen I'm just at right now. He's a drug dealer, he's a gangbanger, whatever the case is, and he's got more money and more bling or whatever than I have. These are people that basically management has to funnel that, right? They have to make sure that you give them good guidelines to follow, and you're always on them. So I don't know if you want that person. I don't know. The people that obviously we want are the ones with excellent character. Ones where money is simply just paper, right? And it's green. That's it. We all know the last part as well. Intelligence without good character is dangerous. We know people like that. We know very bright, manipulative people who have no character, and they get whatever they want. And they leave a wake of destruction pretty much in their path. Real quickly, about 5 minutes to do 6 pillars, but this I'm really going to make applicable, I hope, to what you're doing. So there are 6 pillars of character. I'm not going to read slides to you, so you can read that. The last part is the important part, right? The life's roughest storms prove the strength of our anchors. You can also say that they eventually strengthen those anchors as well. So let me just talk about these 6 pillars for a second. Trustworthiness. Trust is everything, right? How many of you worked for a manager that you do not trust? Only one person in this room has worked for him? Okay, there you go. I was going to say, I'm in the wrong place. I don't know. All right. I know I have, and I know most of you have as well. How difficult is that to work for anybody that you don't trust? That person is never going to know what truly is going on, ever. Nobody's going to tell him or her. But what about the public? They have to know that when you show up, that you're trustworthy, that you're absolutely trustworthy. And if you've been in the paper for things that you shouldn't be, or everybody knows who you are through reputation in the community, then that trust is eroded. So that's trust. The next one is respect. And we all, in the little blue box there, it says respect is earned. We all know that. But a lot of people, especially when they get the job, whether it's police or death investigation or CSI, whatever, they automatically think it should be given to them, right? Like, I am this position. Respect me, right? But basically, respect is earned. How many of you have worked for somebody you don't respect? Okay. How many people have had a manager or a boss not respect you? Did you want to keep working for these people? Either way? Absolutely not. So it's applicable to what we do. And again, it's simply it's a pillar of character. Responsibility. Accountability. As a manager, talking to people, or, with your employees, your employees have to be held accountable. Employees have to hold their managers accountable as well, and their coworkers accountable as well. Nothing undermines management credibility than when you go and violate confidential information that's given to you as a manager or as a coworker, violating confidential information, gossiping and stuff. We'll talk about that because we know how great those work environments are. Justice and fairness. Every manager in the room has a favorite employee. Don't be fooled in thinking that they don't. You're supposed to be open and consistent, right? You're not supposed to have favorites as far as management, but you do. But the problem is you shouldn't let anybody know. You should not act in a way that people know that. But it also comes back to bite you too, because sometimes people think that so-and-so is your favorite when you may not be able to stand that person. But for whatever reason, people think that that's your favorite anyway. We have to do the same when we're out on the scene with our customers as well. We be open, consistent, and don't automatically, because of what they do for a living or because of what they're charged with or whatever, look at them in a different way. We have to be consistent and fair as much as we possibly can. And I know it's difficult, especially when you do this and you deal with death day in and day out. Caring. Your coworkers, your customers, your supervisor, that's the bottom line. How many times have you seen somebody do a death notification and you can tell the person that's giving the notification is just going through the motions? Sorry to tell you, your daughter died in a car accident. Here's my card. I'm not exaggerating. There are those times. Do you think that person on the other end of that thought that person cared about them? That person's going to treat their loved one with any kind of respect? You can't even treat me with respect, and I'm upright, and I'm the one that's having the loss right now? Again, caring. Management has to care about their employees as well. Because if you, as a manager, don't think, if your staff thinks you don't care about them, you've lost them. You're not going to be able to do anything, and why would anybody want to work for you, right? And then finally, civic virtue and citizenship. Basically, we're all here to do the public good, right? That's why we allegedly all got into this, right? So that's one of that's the last pillar of character. So I just want to use that as the foundation and say, okay, how do we know if we're exhibiting good character? How do we know? We may think that we do, that we are, but here's some ways to check yourself. Obviously, we've all heard of the front page test. If what I'm doing, saying, interact, whatever I'm doing right now winds up on the front page, how will I feel? What if my wife saw that? What if my kids saw that? What if my boss saw that? How would I feel? But basically, we're all on stage, and I hope everybody knows that, right? You guys are on stage all the time, 24/7, whether it's on duty or off. We'll talk about that. Because people are judging you and they're going to remember you. But what do you do when no one's watching? What do you do when you're at the death scene? You're at a scene. Law enforcement has stepped out. You're the only death investigator in the room. It's somebody who was using a hotel room. They had a lot of money. Law enforcement hasn't inventoried anything because you found a lot of money in their pockets. And the body is decomposing. You take that money out of the pockets. What do you do with it? Ain't nobody going to know, right? You got $1,000. Ain't nobody going to know if $50 is missing. We have lost people in our line of work, for doing those very things, obviously. But at what cost, right? Like, why? So what do you do when no one's watching? And then, obviously, doing the right thing, the right time, the right way. Those are things to think about. Let me break it down a little bit more. The duty to our profession. Everybody in here has a duty to our profession. All of you want to do this job. That's why you're here. You want to learn and improve and continuous improvement. It ain't management's responsibility to make you good. It's your responsibility to make yourself good. Always remember that. I loved it when I heard, especially when I was in management. Well, when I wasn't in management, I was like, damn, that person gets to go to that training and I don't get to go. And figure out a way to make it happen if you can. Don't complain about it. It's your responsibility to make yourself better, not just management's. So we talked about the education, continuous improvement, the duty to the public. We've already discussed all those things. One of the things that I skipped ahead on, I apologize, the confidentiality. All of us in here, especially those in death investigation and police work, we could make a lot of money. We can make a lot of money with the information that we come across, the things that we see, the things that are told to us. We can make a lot of money. At what cost, right? So these are things that management has to be on top of, but you have to be on top of as well. And make sure that, you're doing things in your life that you're not open to that temptation when TMZ calls for the photograph or for the off-the-record comment about what so-and-so looked like. All right. There we go. Respect for the decedent. This is where character really comes into play. How many of us have gone to a scene as a death investigator, and you get there, the body's out in the street, and it's not covered? It may have taken us an hour to get there, but it's not covered. So who's at these scenes when bodies are in the street? Media, family. Kind of presents a problem for you as a death investigator when you get there and try and do your job, when you're walking up to a hostile crowd because the lack of respect or the perceived lack of respect shown to the person who died and subsequently their family and friends. So I would caution you, always treat the decedent with respect in word and physically. I'm not here to preach to you or anything like that, but you'd be amazed. And if you do this work long enough, you'll be amazed how all of a sudden that just goes away for some people. And that behavior is ingrained. Subsequently, we'll talk about that. Photographs, again, appropriate photographs. What are the photographs you should be taking, as opposed to what are the ones you took just because you thought that was cool to take a picture of that or this or whatever. And then what do you do with those? You take them on your cell phone, keep them in your photos. There have been cases, there was a case in California where it wound up on the internet, a horrific traffic accident where a young lady died and a photograph was taken at the scene and it wound up. And then the family, imagine their surprise when they're Googling or whatever, however they came upon it, and they see the condition of their daughter. So again, these are things that I don't think we think about because we so get into doing the job. And we just do the job and it's one, I got to go, I got to take my photos. And I got to go talk to the family. And I got to go look at the body. And then I got to get the transport folks to do this. And then I got to do. Think about what we're doing and ultimately how that impacts the families and the decedents you're working on, and ultimately your agency and yourself. Back to this manipulation. Manipulation of the decedent prior to transport. We've all done that too. How many of us here have put the decedent into the U position, right? The decedent's lying on the ground, somebody picks the feet, somebody picks the leg, you got the U. If that is looked at outside, if media sees that, if family members see that, what are they going to think? It's kind of disrespectful. Maybe there's no other way to do it. right? But think about how we're manipulating. And not only what you're seeing, what people can see, but what they can hear, right? And what they can smell. Because sometimes they'll find a body, and the body might be face down when the family member finds the body. But how many of us in here, after we go to move the body into the pouch, as soon as you roll that body, you got some smell that you didn't have before that's now wafting down the hall. And maybe so I need you to think about those things. And think about how the manipulation probably wouldn't impact the family too well if they're within earshot, smell shot, or eyesight. All right? We've all done it. I'm sure we've all done it. We all see bodies in various states of various conditions, right? How many times? I mean, we've said, I'm going to say it, just to say it. I mean, we've all said, I got a decomp. I'm heading down on a decomp. I got a jumper. I have a floater. I have a ped spread. Crispy critter. We've said them all. Why? Well, it's lingo that your coworkers certainly understand. They know exactly what you're doing. People that work in your field. Maybe if you say that at a scene, maybe the people that are overhearing you don't have a clue or find it to be completely disrespectful. It is a level of disrespect to the scenes to refer to them in any way. And if you say, nah, you know what, Paul, that's just us coping. We're getting by. Cool. If that was your wife who jumped, or your 5-year-old who was hit by the car, would you want that, right? You go on this ped spread. You go on this jumper. Think about it. I always hear, not always, sometimes I hear, and I've said it myself. I said it myself when I was brand new. That was the coolest scene. That's the coolest scene I've ever been to. No, you'd be amazed, man. This was here and this was it. Check yourself, right? Because number one, you don't know who's hearing that. But number two, is it really cool? I don't know. I've been doing this 25 years. Nothing's cool anymore. I don't know. It's just nothing's cool. It's sad sometimes. It's just not cool. And I think when you're a manager or a supervisor and you come back to the people that are working with you and for you, man, it was the coolest scene, and you start talking like this, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're propagating you're making the next generation. It's all good. Just think about it. Not preaching. I promise you I'm not. Respect for next of kin. This is tough because how many times? I mean, we deal with death all day, every day. That's what we do. How many people in this room have done more than 500 in-person death notifications? Yeah, that's a lot, right? How many people in this room have been to over 500 death scenes? That's a lot. Don't they all eventually kind of start to just, do you remember? I don't remember all 500. I don't remember all 500 scenes. I don't. Because, when you do hundreds and hundreds, I mean, I've done thousands. But I guarantee you that one person, that family, will remember your notification. The one person. It could be the third one you've done that day. It's the first one they're getting. So if we look at it that way, I think that helps us, but also obviously helps them. Now, if I may, after a while, when you do this long enough, whether it's a police officer, or death, whatever, you're going to see, let's just say, you're going to have probably 200, 300, 400 overdoses in your career minimum if you do this long enough. I can tell you from personal experience that about 5 years into my death investigation career, after probably doing 1,000 or it was like 250 years, so 1,200 cases, I remember going to scenes like, yep, there's another OD. And you get the needle still in the arm, and it's another OD. Absolutely another OD, and I'm like, POS, right? I mean, I couldn't believe I would actually think that. This person is a piece of garbage. Look at this. Okay, now let me go do the notification. Go do the notification, you knock on the door opens, all of a sudden you go in, you do the notification correctly, which you'll be taught about later in the week, and the people are crying. You tell them your daughter was found. Looks like she overdosed, and they're crying. I'm ashamed to admit that I used to sit there and go, you're crying now. Where were you before? You ever give these people help? Oh, why would you? They're a piece of garbage, right? I mean, that's how my mind worked. I'm embarrassed to say it. So I learned not to judge, but here's how I learned not to judge. That is my daughter. My daughter is the reason I'm alive, right? We talked about that. We talked about it this morning. That little silhouette, hey, that turned out to be a little girl. Is my daughter. Well, after doing all those scenes and all those drug overdose and all that, guess what? My daughter is a drug addict, right? Heroin and meth. Years. 20 years to the day of me fighting for my life, looking at her ultrasound photo. 20 years to the day, I'm sitting across from her in a rehab facility where they have the families come in and you have to tell, you talk to the person that's in, that just overdosed or whatever, is in this home and tell them why they're important to you, right? Well, that woke me right up because here I was judging people who were going through exactly what I went through because I used to think about the parents. Piece of crap. You must have been a crappy parent. I thought I was a pretty darn good parent. And yet my daughter wound up having this addiction. And my daughter almost died several times. So I can tell you I'm a changed person since. Because every day, every scene, same time, same thing every time. Because I guarantee you, and maybe some of you in here can appreciate this, you have no idea what's going to happen to you and your loved ones. And then people are going to be judging you. So right now, here I am. I'm happy to say my daughter is doing better. But you know how it is. For those of you in the room that had people that are addicted in your family, you really don't know what to believe. You have no clue. So I have my phone, and the only phone call that I will take during this time is something from the state that she's living in, an area code, or her boyfriend, fiance, I should say. Because that's not going to be good. I expect that call every day. Expect that call every day. So I just tell you, the universe has a funny way of coming back and making you check yourself. And so just keep that in mind. All right, so that's... Who's the last people at the scene? The last people at a scene are death investigators. Who's the first people to be accused of stealing something? Death investigators. All the time. So I say to you, be careful about that because you want to make sure that you don't even give the appearance of impropriety. How many death investigators here have ever, at a scene, there's property, evidence, whatever it is, and somehow, some way, they write it down, they take it, they have their evidence bag, oh, crap, the evidence bag's full, I put it in their pocket. I've seen people do it. Are they going to take it? No. But what is the people, you have no idea what that image just, if people that don't know what exactly you're doing. Oh, wait, let me go back. In reference to the whole respect for the decedent and in reference to the comments, also, I cannot tell you how many times I've heard people comment on genital size, breast implants, lip implants, tattoos. Come on, guys. I mean, let's just remember that. And if somebody starts doing that stuff in front of you, you need to cut that stuff immediately because that leads to all kinds of stuff that you don't want any part of, all kinds of allegations of you'll lose your career in a heartbeat. Obviously, here we are. We're talking about character and ethics. Obviously, integrity is important. But it doesn't just go about what you verbally say, right? A lying or omission. Okay, you have to tell the truth. You can't do that. You can't lie or omit stuff. But how many of us, don't raise your hand for this one, how many of us have falsified a time card? I don't care if you worked 6 hours overtime, but you weren't supposed to be working overtime. You don't want to get your boss in trouble, and you didn't put that you worked overtime. How many people here have done that? I know I've done that. So did I technically falsify a time card? I guess if somebody really wanted to come out to get me, yes, I did. But ultimately, it's not just what you say, it's what you write. It's what you write and what's in your reports, and not just your investigative reports, but anything. I don't care what it is. A case note, a supplement, a property receipt, it doesn't matter. You'd be amazed, maybe you wouldn't, especially the police officers in the room wouldn't, how many times people lie during internal investigations, or that result in internal investigations, and then lie when they have evidence right against you. You still lie. You lie to the end. How many people here know anybody? And I watched this happen. This was incredible. But it's lie. It's a form of deceit. You're working with 3 other death investigators on the shift. You got the call out. You're in the middle of wherever. You know that the 2 other people that you're working with got called out too after you left. So you're next up. How many people know any investigator that just never got on the radio and said that they were available for the next call? Like they know stuff's holding, but they just don't clear. They just sit there and do their paperwork, waiting for some other idiot to clear so that they can get that dead baby call. We know people that have done that. That's kind of unethical. We also know people that visit their girlfriend and boyfriends at work. Your girlfriend's on the way home or way back to the office from the scene. You don't check out. It's amazing. And that happens and it continues to happen, but just trying to make this applicable to what you do and just to keep you aware of what's going on around you, right? So we always talk about the call signs or, laying low for the calls. How many of us have looked the other way when somebody next to you is doing some crap that they shouldn't be doing? Whether it's the way they're talking to a family, very disrespectful. Or I'm sure if you look at the continuum, we've all kind of done it, I think. So we just have to look at ourselves and say, oh, what am I going to really tolerate here? What am I not? And that's why I'm just hoping we're talking about this. I don't want to, again, I'm not preaching about it. But I hope you're seeing how ethics is so important, and this character conversation that we're having is not just something to sleep through. It is something to think about, and it permeates every single thing that you do. Impartiality and neutrality, independent. How many of us have gone to a scene of a person who killed a police officer, person who's killed a baby? Maybe that person gets treated a little rougher. Well, they're dead. But they get treated a little rougher. Put in the bag, slammed into the thing. I don't know. Comments about their value or not. I understand it. I was a police officer. I have kids. But ultimately, everybody gets treated the same every time. And you got to check it because you're working. You just do whatever you want. You can think about whatever you want, but obviously you got to check it, right? So we talked about the reports again, being thorough, factual. Did you leave anything out? I love this one. Did you leave anything out? I've seen death investigators do it. A hospital call in a death. They'll get certain information. Case isn't ours. They didn't ask all of the information to make sure that it was or was not. But it's not our case. Nope, done. And they declined the jurisdiction or they waived the jurisdiction. Who's got to clean that mess up the next day? Your coworkers. When the funeral home or somebody else calls and says, did you know about the fractured hip? Did you know about the gunshot? I mean, it's crazy. We've seen it happen. And then you're stuck cleaning up their mess because they wanted to go home and didn't want to really do what they were supposed to be doing. Next of kin. Back to the next of kin. Everything I'm writing down here I've seen. And I'm not making it up. Have you ever... But let's admit, the hardest part, I think, of a death investigation... Well, for me, the hardest part of a death investigation job is to notify next of kin. I think a lot of us would probably agree with that. It's not a task that many normal people want to do. If you have a dysfunctional childhood, maybe you're going to be good at it, like we all are. But basically, how many of you have ever seen somebody, and I've seen it, go up to the door, because that's where you think the family is, and you knock. Ain't nobody going to hear that knock. Nobody's hearing that knock, and you just stand there. Ain't nobody here? Get your card out. Get your card out. This is the best. I love this. Get your card out that says such and such medical examiner's office. And right on the back, call ASAP. I mean, come on now. How's that going to work when the family gets home and you have a medical examiner card on your door? We have agencies that do that. Well, I mean, many of the agencies in this room may do that. Think about what we're doing. Think about how we're doing that. So then when you start talking to the next of kin, what do you tell them? What is the appropriate way to tell them that their son was found in a motel room, probable autoerotic asphyxiation? How do you tell that, right? You're going to do it respectfully, with integrity, without appearing to judge or not, whatever. So these are things to think about as well. How many times have you gotten a call from a family member that's heard about the death of heard about the identification of their loved one on TV before your office went to notify them after they were positively identified? It happens too many times. So think about that. Think about developing personal relationships. I don't know if we should be developing you would think you probably shouldn't be developing personal relationships with the next of kin if you didn't know them before. I don't know. People do. People start dating them, marry them. I don't know. I'm not here to judge that. But ultimately, what is it doing? If it's just a temporary relationship, you're setting them up to lose again. Because now you're associated with their loss. You went and notified them. You investigated their loved one's death. And now all of a sudden, you're somehow involved in their life. And then when you leave, it's like double trauma. Maybe it's kind of a bad thing. Now, I'm sure people in this room have also gotten or phone calls from families a year later, or been invited to the funeral because you did, so that the family connected with you. You do with that what you want. I mean, I have, I think there was probably one funeral, maybe two, that I've gone to in my entire career of people that I investigated. I didn't go up and, I just went in the back because maybe it traumatized me so much, like the whole thing. I was trying to process it, and I don't know. I don't know if that's right. Think about it. All right, now, how many of us work in no, don't raise your hand again. How many of us have ever worked in a place that you would rather be out at a scene investigating a dead child? Or think about your worst possible case. Some people it's not dead children. Some people it's, decomp or charred bodies, whatever. Think about it. How many times would you rather be at that scene than sitting at your desk listening to this nonsense going on around you at the office? A lot. If we were honest, if we all had blinders on and people could raise their hand and only I could see, a lot of people's hands would probably go up. Why? I think maybe the four things that are on the screen play a role, right? We see it. We see managers do it. We see fellow investigators and fellow coworkers do all of that. It does lead, I assure you, to a hostile, negative work environment. So if you're participating in that, I think that, there's some character and ethics involved with not. If your manager is doing that, there's some character and ethics involved with trying to figure out a way to make sure that they don't anymore, because it's ultimately, death investigators, I think, maybe have a shelf life if they're properly taken care of. I don't know, maybe 10 years until you start, maybe some people go off the rails a little sooner. Some people can do it for 20 years. But if you're working in an environment where management doesn't seem to care that all that nonsense is going on, or they're the biggest ones doing it, then you're probably not going to be around in that profession very long. And if you are, we'll talk about what will happen to you here. So you have the public life and private life, right? Everybody says, well, I'm off duty. I do whatever I want. You're obviously still representing your department. So there should be appropriate activities when you're in the office and when you're out. And you guys are probably thinking, where has this guy worked? I'm telling you, I've seen it. I've seen it. So just be aware. But it's understandable to a point. And I want to talk about that. Again, we're not judging anybody. It is understandable. We know that people have sex on duty. We know that there are affairs going on. We know people that drink on duty or that come to work, steal meds from the people who have died and or abusing their own medications. We know that. A lot of this stuff, these affairs and things that may happen, think about it. Who else knows? Does your spouse really have any clue what you see every day? Mine doesn't. Mine's in the field. She's a forensic toxicologist. That's how I met her. Met her over a dead body. And our kids are screwed up. I'm serious. Met over a dead body. But she didn't do notifications. She didn't deal with the bodies. She didn't deal with the stress of doing all that. Hers was different. She had no clue. But who does understand? That good-looking person right next to you. Or maybe they're not even that good-looking. But they understand what's going on. So you begin to gravitate toward that person. It happens. It happens to all of us. So just keep in mind what's going on when you're on duty. There's other stuff you think, theft and all that stuff. Like you would think that doesn't happen, but it does. Off duty. Again, we come back to a lot of people. All of us in this line of work, every single person in this room is bringing order to chaos. Every one of you. Every one of you. I was raised in a way that was extremely chaotic, right? I wasn't raised with my parents. I was from one place to another to my grandparents and all that. So my whole life was chaos. So it's probably no surprise that I initially got into law enforcement, because what does law enforcement do? Everywhere you go, you're bringing order. You're trying, at least temporarily, to bring order to chaos. Death investigation, forensic nurse, I mean, it doesn't matter. Everywhere you go, you're bringing, crap is happening. And when you get there, you got to bring it back. And you got to talk to that person whose 16-year-old son was just shot and killed. And they're crying and screaming and doing whatever. You got to bring it and get some order, because that's what you do. So because you try that so hard, I think, all the time, all day, every day, you'd think maybe if you don't have some good, healthy coping mechanisms, you're probably going to have some problems otherwise, right? You've got to just let it go, because you're always on. And everybody in this room, not everybody, a lot of people at one point in time, people in this room, one point in time in their career, your experience equaled your value, right? I am a death investigator. You ask a police officer most of the time, if you go up to them and ask them, right? I mean, Kevin Gilmartin talks about this with emotional survival. What are you? Most normal people will say, I'm a person. What are you talking about? Arms, legs. Police officers say, I'm a police officer. Death investigators say, I'm a death investigator. No, I'm a nurse. They equate their experience with their value. And so you're always on in this line of work. Not just police work, but death investigation too. And how many times have you been off duty driving to a scene, or driving to the movies with your spouse? Yeah, I had a case there. Yeah, see that? Oh, yeah, they jumped. That's a long fall, but they jumped from there and they landed right there. How many times have you done that? Why? Because you can't turn it off. You're on all the time. So it stands to reason that there are going to be some issues, and there are unhealthy coping mechanisms. Sex, drinking, drugs. I'll admit to one of those. I will admit, Jack Daniels, I love Jack Daniels. I love it. I listen to me. It's the happiest I've been the whole time I've been up here. I love it. But I haven't had it in several months, because I know it's probably not the right thing for me to be doing. Because that was how I coped. And guess what? All those people I worked with, every one of them that I go out drinking with and I would hang with, and they were doing nothing was as good as Jack Daniels, but they were doing whatever they were doing. None of them told me I had a problem. None of them said, dude, you got to get yourself together. What are you doing? Who was the only person that told me that? My spouse. Did I listen to her? Nope, because she didn't get it. So just keep that in mind, right? When I was a police officer, what I loved when I worked graveyard shift, this is all recorded, I probably shouldn't say this. Because I could never, and people might do this now if they work graveyards, you can't go to sleep. So you got to sometimes do something. And I know back in the early 90s, NyQuil. You go through NyQuil like half a bottle just to go to sleep. Think about that. Think about what that's doing, and maybe you're a little off kilter. Maybe you need to do something healthy, right? So how do we do this? How do we put this back in perspective? How do we make sure that people that we're hiring are ethical, people you're working with are ethical, and how do we maintain that throughout the course of somebody's career? Well, I think, again, it all starts with the way you hire. All of you who were hired in this line of work should have hopefully had some kind of background done, right? Drug test, background, credit check. Hopefully, you had a psych test done. Everybody's like, nope, this room be empty. No, that's not true. If you have a psych test done, at least you can wean out some people who just goes back to that first nature character, that bad character, right? And you can wean that out. One of the things I was always concerned about, I remember, as you know from my introduction, I've moved around quite a bit. I've been to a bunch of different agencies. I was always worried. After doing this and seeing thousands and thousands of dead bodies, I was always like, well, I'm never going to pass a psych. There is no way in the world. Well, I was told by a psychologist who was doing the psych. Before he did the psych on me, he said, and I hope to impart this to you, it doesn't matter what you've seen. It doesn't matter what you've experienced. None of it matters. What matters is how you've handled it. What have you done? Are you on meds? Have you gotten counseling and are you on medications? Great. Have you, do you go run? Do you bike? Do you do something healthy? Good. If you answer the question of how many drinks do you have in a week in double digits per day, it's probably not helpful, you know. So, and I'm telling you that from experience. So always remember that. It doesn't matter, because I think that's what to take out of this about this ethics and character and how we can take care of each other. It doesn't matter what somebody's experienced. How are they dealing with it? What opportunities are given to them to heal or to help them through it? Yeah, I can't see the right. All right, so we did that. So recruit. Make sure you're properly recruiting people, training people. We talked about this, the code of ethics. You should have a code of ethics, and it should be bought in from management. How many times has management given you a piece of paper like, just sign this? Just sign it. You got to sign it. HR said, no, go over it, talk about it, and make it something important, because it really is. Because ultimately, it's career longevity and it's agency survival, and it's ultimately provides better service to your customers if you actually buy into it. It has to start at the top. Unfortunately, some agencies that's not the case. Code of conduct. We've talked about that kind of a lot, so we won't beat that dead horse. Again, management has to buy in, but the members have to be willing to follow. But it starts when management buys in. So then when you bring people on, how many of you, no, I got to stop doing that because I don't want to point anybody out. I have been numerous places. All but probably two. Law enforcement was one that worked well. But the other places outside law enforcement, I don't think I had a documented training program. I think it was pretty much, you know, oh, you're going to work day shift, that person works day shift, go with that person and they'll train you. Nothing was ever documented. There was no real structure on what it was supposed to be covered and how it was supposed to be covered. And, oh, I don't know if I was doing what I was supposed to do. Policies and procedures, you'd be amazed. There are agencies out there that don't have them. It's not documented. Not documented. So what's a new person supposed to do? What's a journey level person supposed to do? They don't know what's expected of them, because what's expected is who you ask. So these need to be documented. And all of us in government, those of us who are in government, probationary period. Everybody in government knows you get off probation, you do whatever you want for the rest of your career. And with the exception of probably killing somebody, you're probably right. Because who wants to document all that? Nobody. And then you just let them off probation. Why do you let them off probation? Or why do your coworkers, all the coworkers know this person shouldn't be here. How the heck that person get off probation? Because it's a body and it's filling a role. You have to change the mentality. Management has to change the mentality, but it starts at the grassroots, though, too, because employees got to be like, dude, you're not going to let this person off probation, right? And here's why. Hopefully you have managers that are open to that. And it all comes down to walking the walk. Walking the walk, talking. If you're management, but if you're the employee and you're representing your office and you're dealing with families, all self-explanatory. This gossip and bullying and harassment, it's like a cancer, you know? People's workplaces are so toxic and so cancerous. I've worked in a workplace where I thought the whole place sucked. And management got rid of one person. The workplace got a lot better. It was like, wow. One person did that in an office of 55 people. It's like cancer. You're going in and excising the tumor, right? And once it's out, you make sure it doesn't go anywhere else, it doesn't metastasize, and man, you're a lot better. It's pretty crazy. So management has to buy in on that, but the coworkers do too. All right, peer support. I know touchy-feely stuff is all touchy-feely, right? I do think that management is responsible. We talked about the shelf life. We talked about it. And all of you know people who have been doing this line of work, whether it's law enforcement, whatever, too long. And they're retired on duty, right? They need to get going. They don't care. They're just coming in, doing their time. Well, maybe it's not because they're jerks. Maybe because they were so burnt out and so fried and experienced so much that the culture said, you can't show that you feel. There was one situation in a place I worked where the supervisor said to a brand new person just gone to a scene, it was a little 2-year-old who choked. And the 2-year-old looked just like her 2-year-old daughter. And so the investigator, obviously, that hit home. Because you never know, like we all know here, what case is going to hit you or not, right? You think it's going to be the one thing, but the next thing you know, you're crying on the way back from the scene on something else. But anyway, supervisor, they're on the way back, and she's got a tear, and she's like obviously upset. And the supervisor looks at her and says, just like that line from, I don't remember the movie, you'll know it in a minute. You crying? There's no crying in forensics. Just like that. What did that tell that person? Yeah, it was said as a joke, but it was also kind of serious because you can't do your job if you have any kind of feelings. So I say this all to you because maybe you'll look at that old crotchety, curmudgeonly person or young one that you work with who's always miserable about everything. And instead of judging, which I hope is the whole point of this conversation, maybe you'll go, maybe that person had some stuff happen, and maybe this career didn't help or actually pushed this and made this happen, and management didn't take care of the problem. Management didn't offer or nobody helped this person. So I will say that the shelf life, again, I think I've talked about it. You need to provide those things for your people. And if your management's not doing it, you need to seek it out for yourself. I will say, professional ethics, and I will say this, October 1, or 1 October, an example of professional ethical leadership, and I'm not just saying it because he invited me here today. John Fuenberg, the coroner here in Clark County, I think you would talk about exemplifying that. He implemented like yoga and counseling for the people that went through that, which is amazing because nobody thinks about death investigators. Not anybody thinks about them, about what they experience. With all due respect to my law enforcement folks in the room, and again, I was one, critical incident stress debriefings occur. There are some agencies where a certain unit, a child abuse unit, if they get like X number of troublesome calls a week or a month, they send their whole debrief team, their EAP team, in to that team. That's awesome. Think, though, death investigators, everything you do, every scene, all month, you'd have to be like having EAP, you can't, hundreds of deaths a month. And even in small agencies, you're going to get 5, probably. You're going to get what that other agency gets those people to automatically have to talk. But nobody thinks about death investigation. If you talk to normal people outside of here, somebody you walk on the street, and you ask them about, if they had somebody jump off a building and they came upon the remnants of that person while they were out sightseeing, they would never, ever forget that, ever. You, on the other hand, don't remember it. You don't remember it because you've seen so many. That's kind of not normal, right? So if management's not committed to getting you the help, or if it's too macho of a thing, or the culture is such that you can't admit it, then do it outside. But I'm telling you from personal experience, you need to do it. You need to do it. Just take care of yourself. Take care of the people that are working with you. Come on, we got to talk about Me Too just for a second. Everybody knows the Me Too movement. So let me just throw it out there to you. Ethically, with how many people in this room are hoping like heck that nobody from their past says, hey, when he was my supervisor, he did this. When he was my supervisor and she was my supervisor, she did this. You know there are people thinking, oh, man, I guess I shouldn't have done that. Or, I guess I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Hopefully they're on it enough to think. Hopefully, I got to watch the way I'm talking to somebody. I got to watch the innuendo. I got to watch this stuff. So I throw it out there because, again, it comes down to the character and ethics. But I'm not saying that people do that or don't have character or they have bad character. Remember the environment in which you're working. And it's easy to get sucked in to that because it's a way to deal with stress. So it all comes back to taking care of yourself. All right, so to wrap up the professional ethics part, these are just a checklist. I don't know if you'll have the handout. We'll make sure that you get a copy of it if you really are interested in it. But basically, is it legal? Of course. I mean, that's the number one thing. Is it conform with your policies or whatever? But what I've always found, and I think all of you, again, especially the police officers, we're always taught, listen to your gut. Listen to your gut. Listen to your sixth sense. It's there for a reason, and it'll save your life. I didn't listen to my sixth sense, and it almost got me killed. I knew when I was chasing that guy, I remember thinking, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? But what I was doing was my ego was too great because I was a cross-country runner in high school that this guy was going to outrun me. But what I didn't realize was, because I didn't listen to the sixth sense, is I can outrun him, but I sure as heck can't do anything once I get him. So he proved that lesson to me. So listen to your sixth sense when you're about to do something stupid or say something. Just listen to it. Think about the most important person in the world to you. This will keep you in line. I don't know who it is. It could be your mom, could be your spouse, it could be your youngest son, because, we all have favorites, right? It could be somebody. Think about that person. And when you're carrying on your day, you're at a scene, you're interacting with family, you're interacting with your coworkers, if that person means the most to you, saw, heard, or whatever, or was there while you were doing something you probably shouldn't be doing, how would you feel? So that's how I honestly do that. And I won't tell you who my favorite person is, but I do. And it does help me when I somehow go, when I'm not listening to myself. So I hope that the ethics part has been able to at least give you the foundation and make you look at things a little differently, but really try to apply it to what you're doing, but more importantly, look out for each other. So that is that. Does anybody have any questions about ethics? The best that I can answer. Come on. That's great. All right. Okay. David, what am I doing? Am I just, oh, crap. All right. So lunch is in 15 minutes. I was hoping to get you out here soon. But, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to and please don't ding me on the evals for this, because I'm trying to get you out early for lunch. I'm going to take this report writing part. We talked about how ethics and report writing are very, very important. I'm just going to highlight a couple things. This is like 40 other slides, but I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to click through them and tell you what's important. The bottom line about your reports, everything you write. What's the number? People are judging you on what you write and how you write it. Before I get into that, all of you who in this room who have the honor, and I'm assuming most of you do, have the honor to be investigating deaths in some form or fashion. I hope that you look at it as what that says. There is nothing more honorable than writing the last chapter. All of you in this room right now, if you've heard this before, just bear with me. All of you are living your life. You're writing your life story right now. You're writing the chapters, I'm not. But we will write the chapter one day. That's what we're going to do. And when we do that, for most of the cases that, when the cases come to your office, even if they're reported to your office but you don't invoke jurisdiction on them, you're still writing a little chapter, like a brief chapter, of what was told to you and what information you have. Because it should be looked at as that, it has to be nothing other than complete and factual and accurate, professional, respectful, and unbiased. You don't have an opinion unless you're a forensic pathologist. Their reports have opinions. We gather facts and put those out. What's in blue? I heard Barbara talk about it earlier, so I'm not going to beat it up. But we all know it's true. And you think, it's just a line. No, we deal with it every day. If it's not documented, it certainly didn't occur. But more importantly, the report is a direct reflection upon your competence as a death investigator or as a police officer or as a forensic nurse. It doesn't matter. You could be the most brilliant one. You could be like people looking up and bowing down to you for your expertise. But if you can't put it down in writing, or if there are mistakes all through it, they're going to think it's going to carry no value, no weight at all. There's nowhere that tells you in all this death investigation stuff how to do about, write reports and all that. So I'm not going to bore you. I'm not going to get into commas and semicolons and all that stuff because I want to get you out to lunch. But I want you to consider, in the context of your work, your report has to stand alone. People are going to, again, look at it, judge you, or if you go to another agency, that's all they're going to have. Or if it's 20 or 30 years down the road, it's a cold case. That's all they're going to have is your report. You're not going to be able to explain anything after it's gone. So I want you to look at it differently. It's not about the punctuation. It is about the punctuation. I'm not going to teach you English, but it needs to look good. It needs to be tight. The peripheral brain. How many times we go to court on cases that happened 3 years ago. I don't remember anything. But you have your report, and hopefully your report was done well because you'll be able to refer back to it and make people think that you were competent. 3 things a death report's used for. And 2 of them, all 3 of them, I don't even know if you realize. I'm sure you realize it, but you don't think about it as much as I sit around with my life and think about these things. Death investigation report, the number one thing it does, you have several customers, right? But the number one is the foundation for the pathologist. How the heck, Barbara talked about it, how does a pathologist know anything? How do they know? All they have is a body. I used to know pathologists say, just give me the body, I'll tell you cause and manner. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't think they can do that. They can tell you cause. So it's a foundation for them to determine what examination is going to be done, the extent of the examination, and what other tests that they may have to order. What toxicology is going to be run. It's based on the history that you find at the scene. Assist with the death certificate completion. A lot of the information on a death certificate doesn't come from the doctors. It comes from death investigators. Time of death, location of death, surgeries, circumstances, pregnant in the last year, if you know, tobacco user, all these things. You give all that. You provide that. That's how important you are, but you have to, you have to provide it. And then finally, evaluation of your performance. Not only your supervisors or your trainers or whoever evaluating you, but everybody's looking at it. I'm telling you, I've had, we have graveyard investigators who work all night. They get 4 cases. They try to write as best that they can so that by the morning meeting, the doctors who are going to talk about the cases to determine what they're going to do, they have something to look at. It gives a foundation. I've heard doctors and other people present during these meetings go, you used the wrong word here, or this is spelled wrong, or, well, no crap, because I don't know, I'm tired, and I've been up all night, and I've been running around, I got all this property to do, I had to do this notification, I had to do 2 notifications, I had to come back and try to get your report done for you and make it perfect. It's not going to be. However, keep in mind, people are judging you based even on your draft report. Not fair, but life's not fair, right? All right, so we talked about the foundation, and I think that really those are the key things that, everybody, obviously if a media gets hold of one of your reports and it's a mess, good luck to you. One of the things, and then I'll end on this, but then I want to end with 2 quotes and then I'm out of here. Photos versus reports. Back when I started, you were given a pack of Polaroids, right? And you had to take it, and your supervisor would get really angry because it's like $1 a picture. So if you took 7 pictures, you almost owed the county $5. I'm like, I'm not doing this. But now with the digital, you're taking pictures all day long. And a lot of investigators, when they go to the scene, they don't write their notes down as much. I'll catch it in the picture. I got it in the picture. Okay. Well, let's hope your camera worked. Let's hope that there's no corruption when you go back. But also, what can a picture show you? It cannot show you those things. I don't know what it's. Picture ain't going to tell you what it's not scratch and sniff, which is good. There's no odors that you can tell on your photos. You don't know about the negatives. You don't know what wasn't there. You just know what's not in your photos. So keep that in mind as well. And then finally, again, it's the final chapter of someone's life. If nothing else matters to you about this very brief report writing, it's the final chapter of someone's life. Give it the respect that it deserves, no matter who the person is that died. Even if you don't think that person was a great person, they got family. They have people that cared about them, and no judgments, right? It's a direct reflection upon your competence. And then I think don't use coroner. All right, come on, this is kind of funny. These are kind of funny. We've got to leave this in here. These are right from reports that I used to review. That's my favorite one. That's my favorite. The image that paints is not a good picture. But that came right from a report, and I was like, oh, my goodness. So just be careful what you're writing. All right? And then finally, direct reflection report. All right. This is a good quote, but I think this talks about, how, well, you can read. I'm going to read to you. But the next one, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, and I hope it wraps this up. Please read that. It is so true, especially when you get and you care about what you're doing here. It is so true, because you will spend a lot of money to take care of your psyche and your physical well-being. And you will miss out on your family. And you will look and you go, man, my kid was like that tall. Now my kid is that tall. You will do this, exactly, if you don't have the balance. And again, I only say this to you because I'm speaking from experience. So please, if you take nothing else at all, take that. And with that, I'm done, unless anybody has any questions. Thank you all very much. Seriously, thank you.